Picture this, a lone figure hanging from a vast tree that seems to hold the universe together. He's wounded. A spear has pierced him. His body sways in the wind, 9 nights, suspended between life and death. And here's the twist. He isn't being punished. He chose this. Because in Norse myth, wisdom isn't a gift. It's a price, a steep one, paid in blood, loss, and fear. Today we're talking about Odin, the one-eyed ruler of the gods, master of magic, collector of secrets, and maybe the most unsettling wise king in mythology. By the end of this video, you'll understand what Odin actually rules, why he keeps sacrificing parts of himself, and why Norse stories treat knowledge as something dangerous, something that can save you or ruin you. Welcome back to the Temple of Tales. Odin is often introduced with a neat label, Allfather, king of the Aesir, the wise old god. But the Norse sources don't give us a tidy Skyfather who simply sits on a throne and dispenses justice. Instead, Odin is a god of contradictions, wisdom and war, poetry and death, prophecy and deception. He's a ruler, yes, but more than that, he's a seeker, a strategist, a wanderer, a man who seems to believe one thing above all. If you can gather enough knowledge, you can survive what's coming. But can you? Let's begin with what Odin actually is, because that answer is already stranger than most people expect. Odin is the leader of the Aesir, one of the major groups of Norse gods. He's tied to kingship, victory, and the ordering of society. But if you think that means he's simply the god of law and stability, you'll miss the point. Odin is connected to war, but not in the simple battlefield hero way. That's closer to Thor. Odin is about outcomes, about who wins, who falls, and what the victory costs. He's also tied to death, specifically the death of warriors, not because he's an underworld judge, but because he collects the dead like a commander building an army. Then there's poetry, which sounds gentle until you remember what poetry meant in a pre-modern world. Poetry was power, reputation, memory, the ability to shape how people see reality. Odin doesn't just want strength, he wants story. And finally, Odin is deeply connected to magic, especially a kind of magic called Sather, associated with prophecy, shaping fate, and altering outcomes. It's the kind of power that blurs the line between knowing the future and trying to rewrite it. So who is Odin? He's a king, but he doesn't rule like a king. He rules like someone running a war room. And the reason becomes clear when you learn what Odin spends most of his life doing. He pays for wisdom. 1. The eye, Mímir's well. Let's start with the image everyone knows. Odin, one eye missing. In the myths, there's a well of wisdom guarded by Mímir. This isn't fun trivia knowledge. It's deep understanding, insight into how the world works, how people work, and how fate might unfold. Odin wants it. But the cost isn't a coin, it's not a riddle, it's his eye. And that matters, because the sacrifice is permanent. Odin doesn't gain wisdom and then go back to normal. He becomes someone visibly marked by what he's done. Think about what that means symbolically. Odin literally chooses to see less in order to understand more. He gives up part of the world's surface, so he can grasp what lies beneath it. 2. The hanging Yggdrasil. Now we return to that opening scene, Odin hanging from the world tree, Yggdrasil. He's pierced by a spear, he's starving, he's alone, and the sources frame it as a sacrifice of the highest kind, Odin giving himself to himself, like a ritual offering. 9 nights. And at the edge of death, he gains something that changes everything. The runes. The runes aren't just letters, they're power. Symbols that carry knowledge, spells, and influence. Practical magic, the kind of knowledge that can heal, curse, bind, break, summon, protect. But again, Odin doesn't learn them through comfort. He learns them through suffering, through a self-inflicted ordeal. Because in Norse myth, the deepest knowledge doesn't come from study, it comes from transformation. And transformation hurts. 3. The mead of poetry. Then there's the mead of poetry, a story that shows Odin isn't only a sacrificial mystic, he's also a trickster when he needs to be. The mead grants poetic inspiration, eloquence, creativity, the the ability to speak in ways that move people, persuade people, even reshape how history remembers events. Odin doesn't politely ask for it. He schemes, he deceives, he steals. In some versions, he seduces. He escapes with it, and in doing so, he makes poetry itself feel like something wild, something you take from the universe rather than something the universe gently hands you. So here's the pattern. Odin gains wisdom by paying with something real, his body, his comfort, his integrity, his safety. Which raises an uncomfortable question. If Odin is so wise, why is he always desperate for more? That's where the Norse worldview comes in. A quick myth versus pop culture moment, because Odin's modern image often flattens him. In a lot of modern stories, Odin becomes the wise old king, stern but noble, a father figure, a stable ruler. The myths don't really give us that. The mythic Odin is a wanderer in disguise, a sorcerer-king, a man who manipulates heroes, starts conflicts, and gathers the dead. Sometimes he helps, sometimes he ruins you. Often, he does both. So if you came into this expecting a kindly grandfather god, adjust the lens. Odin's wisdom doesn't make him harmless. It makes him dangerous in a different way. And that danger makes more sense once you understand what the Norse myths say about fate. Here's the Norse worldview in 3 lines. Simple, but it changes how you read every Odin story. 1. Fate is real. The future isn't an illusion. 2. Knowledge is costly. Learning the truth can break you. 3. Honor isn't about winning. It's about how you face what you can't avoid. That's why Odin's wisdom has this desperate edge. He isn't trying to learn trivia. He's trying to learn how the story ends. And he's trying to prepare, maybe even bend the ending. Which brings us to Odin's symbols, the tools of a god who doesn't just rule, but watches. Odin is surrounded by symbols that don't feel like royal luxury. They feel like instruments. Hugin and Munin ravens. Odin's ravens are called Hugin and Munin, often interpreted as thought and memory. They fly across the world, observe everything, then return to Odin and report what they've seen. That detail is easy to overlook, but it's everything. Odin doesn't rely on strength alone. He relies on information, on awareness, on knowing what's happening in places he isn't. It's almost like Odin is building a network, a mythic intelligence system. Gary and Freki wolves. Then there are the wolves, Gary and Freki. Odin is often described as feeding them, while he himself drinks wine. Wolves carry a message: hunger, violence, the wild edge of survival. Odin isn't a god who pretends the world is gentle. He keeps the wild close. He understands what civilization is always sitting on top of. Gungnir, the spear. Odin's spear, Gungnir, isn't just a weapon. It's tied to authority and to the inevitability of battle. In some traditions, the spear is linked to oaths, words that bind, promises that can't be broken without consequence. Odin's weapon is basically the physical shape of commitment and consequence. Sleipnir, the 8-legged horse. And then there's Sleipnir, his 8-legged horse, the fastest mount in myth, capable of traveling between worlds. That detail matters, because Odin is not rooted. He moves between realms, gods, humans, giants, even the lands of the dead. He's a traveler between boundaries. A king, yes, but also a wanderer who refuses to stay in one category. And once you see that, Valhalla makes a lot more sense. Because Odin's relationship with death isn't philosophical. It's strategic. A lot of people imagine Valhalla like a Norse heaven, warriors rewarded forever with feasting and glory. But the myths suggest something more intense. In Valhalla, the chosen dead, called the Einherjar, fight every day. They train, they kill, and are restored. Then they feast at night. That isn't paradise. That's boot camp for the end of the world. And who chooses who gets in? The Valkyries, the choosers of the slain. They're not simply angelic figures. They're part of Odin's system. They decide which warriors die, and which ones become part of his final force. And here's where Odin becomes morally complicated. If you're building an army of the best dead warriors, then death isn't just something that happens. It's something that can be selected. This is the heart of Odin's dark wisdom. He treats reality like a battlefield, long before swords are drawn. So Odin gathers the dead, he gathers knowledge, he gathers power. But he also gathers something else: disguises. Odin frequently appears in myth as a hooded stranger, an old man traveling alone, stepping into a hall, testing a host's hospitality, offering a gift, or asking a question that feels like a trap. He has many names, and those names often describe what he's doing in that moment. Odin isn't just a person in the myths, he's a role shifter, a god of masks. Why? Because knowledge behaves differently when you're not powerful on paper. If Odin walked into every story wearing a crown, people would perform for him. They'd hide things, they'd lie. But if he comes as a stranger, he can watch what you're really like. And that's another theme of Odin: truth obtained indirectly. He doesn't always demand. He provokes, he tempts, he tests. He sets up situations that reveal what people are. And sometimes, this is important, he's not helping in a modern moral sense. Sometimes he's arranging outcomes, because he's trying to prepare for Ragnarok. And that brings us to the taboo magic, because it shows just how far Odin will go. Let's talk about Sather. In the Norse world, certain kinds of magic were associated with prophecy, weaving fate, influencing outcomes, often linked to feminine roles in the culture. And in some sources, for a man to practice Sather is seen as shameful or socially transgressive. But Odin practices it anyway. That's huge, because it tells you Odin is willing to pay social costs, not just physical ones. He'll sacrifice reputation. He'll cross boundaries that others fear to cross. Why? Because Odin doesn't worship respectability, he worships results. If there's a kind of knowledge that might help him see the end, he'll take it, even if it makes him look unclean in the eyes of others. That's not a nice god. That's a god who believes the end justifies the means. And in Norse myth, the end is called Ragnarok. Odin seeks prophecy, he consults seers, he listens to whispers of fate, he gathers the slain, he collects the runes, he builds networks of knowledge. But here's the tragedy. Knowing the future is not the same as controlling it. Ragnarok comes anyway. The gods ride to war anyway. And Odin, this master of strategies, this collector of secrets, still meets his end. In the most brutal form, he is swallowed by the wolf Fenrir. And you can read that as a cosmic defeat, or as the ultimate Norse statement. Even the wisest being in the cosmos cannot bargain his way out of destiny forever. So what does Odin represent? Not a god who solves fate, a god who stares into fate without blinking, a god who prepares, who sacrifices, who accepts that the world is not built for happy endings, and still acts. Odin is the one-eyed god who teaches us the Norse idea that wisdom is expensive. He pays for it with an eye, with pain, with deception, with taboo, with the lives of warriors gathered into a hall of endless training. He isn't simply the father of gods. He's the god of the seeker, the part of the human spirit that wants to know the truth, even when the truth is terrifying. Because in the Norse world, ignorance doesn't protect you. Only preparation does. Thanks for spending your time here in the Temple of Tales. If you enjoyed this deep dive, leave a like. It really helps the channel. And subscribe for more mythologies explained with clarity and story. And I want to hear from you. Would you pay Odin's price for wisdom? Yes or no? Drop your answer in the comments. Until next time, thanks for watching.